Oh, how gozaimasu, good morning. Sitting down here by the river, just taking the dog out for a walk. Where's the dog? There's the dog. You can see the lovely flowers as well, the azaleas they've got lined up. Ajisai in Japanese. There's an ajisai display. Oh god, the dog's starting to walk down there. I decided to do a video called Snowy Mountain. I might call it Snowy Mountain, but anyway. My mum's godfather, he's passed away a while back now, but he was a very successful art dealer. And he was always going back and forth to Japan and Tokyo from England. And I mean, as kids, I remember going to his house. He had a house in the country which is sort of minimalist oriental style. I still remember, it's just amazing. He had this little orchard and stuff, and then he had also this penthouse like apartment in Brighton. It was great. I mean, he was English, but I think he had this kind of weird, not weird, but was transatlantic twang basically. He's like, hey kids, go and get yourself a soda from the cooler. You know, we're like 80s English kids. I was like, wow, it was so cool, a soda from the cooler. Anyway, that aside, so he had white hair, Tony. He went white very early on in his life, and he was quite tall, and he had a nickname in Japan amongst the buyers and the other art dealers and stuff. They called him Snowy Mountain. I don't know, because he wasn't that tall, and this whole thing about, you know, Japanese being like smaller than the Westerners and stuff. I mean, maybe it was, you know, pre-war or several generations ago, but it's just not true now. But I still think that myth continues because it suits the Japanese spirit. It's like they always find it hard to believe that like England's smaller than Japan. I mean, Japan's not a particularly small island, but they have this kind of, you know, we are small but we overcome type mentality. So I can go off track here, don't I? Yeah, it's a Snowy Mountain. So he was called Snowy Mountain, though he wasn't particularly tall, Tony, but tallish. And his he was gay, and his partner Bunny, it's a nickname, lovely man, very good to kids, like Tony was. But Bunny, so Bunny used to go with him to these exhibitions and stuff. And he said one time, Tony said he was giving Snowy Mountain, Tony, he was giving a talk, or he was giving a lecture or something, or trying to pitch some art product. God knows what it was, but something. I think he was trying to, eventually it was to get a sale. And he spoke to a large audience of mainly Japanese people, funny enough, in Japan. And it finished on that, and Bunny had been sitting at the side. He came over and he said, oh, I'm sorry it didn't go better for you. Tony said, what do you mean? He said, well, they just sat there, you know, there was very muted applause and they all looked very serious, and it was obviously going well. And Tony said, no, you don't understand. He goes, it went really well. He goes, it's when the Japanese start smiling a lot and sort of being enthusiastic and bowing and doing all that, that's when you have a problem. You know, it didn't go so well. And that, I mean, it's a bit of a stereotype, but it has a basis in fact that the Japanese, I'm trying to speak a bit quietly now because people are walking by in case they hear me, but the Japanese, they, yeah, when they feel uneasy and stuff, they can smile or laugh or giggle a lot to try and mask that. Try and keep the way of wa, which is sort of a smoothness, a social, you know, society is all important to keep that smoothness and society way of dealing with other people. It comes from the day where if they didn't sort of deal with each other harmoniously, they could very well starve to death. You know, the repeated famines and stuff, and the terrible sort of natural disasters, typhoons and tsunamis and stuff which can befall this country on a regular basis. Where am I going with this? Yeah, so it relates to another video I did recently where I bemoaned some of the way some foreigners behave, copying that Logan Paul a-hole who came over here and behaved really disrespectfully for one of his YouTube videos. And actually in that one I didn't even mention the fact that he went to the suicide forest, I forget what it's called in Japanese now, and he found the corpse of some poor soul who'd hung themselves from a tree, and, you know, oh my god, look at that shit, you know, completely disgraceful behaviour. But well, you know, I didn't even mention that, but I suppose it's just so terrible that everyone knows about it. It was more in that video I focused more or solely on like he was throwing fish around and stuff and just misbehaving himself. Yeah, I mentioned about some foreigners that sort of seem to want to follow that pattern of behaviour, and I encountered a couple of them in a convenience store, and they were just being really loud. They're a bit drunk, it's two blokes, and and the staff were giggling, and this was obviously sort of egging the blokes on. They thought they were like being really cool or something. And I said in that video, no, it's just the way they disguise their unease, and they just wish these blokes would go. And I've had it. Now I'm kind of used to it, even knowing that. So I got an early heads up, as it were. I mean, I first got to Japan when I was 27, and hearing that story from Tony, I can't have been even in my teens, perhaps. So I got an early heads up on sort of aspects of Japanese, you know, customs and behaviour and stuff. But a number of times I thought, oh, you know, I've done something, business presentation or teaching business English. I've done a talk or a lecture or something. I thought, oh God, it hasn't gone well. And afterwards, I realised that I've sort of, people listening came up to me, asked me questions, and I've realised they've taken on board what I was saying, or they're interested in it. That's the main thing, interested in it. They want to give their opinion and stuff, and I've made the connection. That's really good. And other times when there's lots of smiling and laughing, oh God, I've blown it, and that's true as well. You know, it's just not resonated or not connected. So yeah, that was just so I got an early heads up from old Snowy Mountain, rest in peace, Tony, about certain aspects of Japanese behaviour, you know, how they deal with feeling uneasy and stuff. And though a stereotype, it is a true one. You know, they will often, you know, smile or laugh or whatever to try and disguise that. So anyone with a bit of perceptual intelligence will soon twig it. You might be fooled a couple of times because it is pretty well done, but after that you get it. But basically, if you don't behave like a clown, then you know you've got no reason to worry about it, really. Otherwise, people then just smiling or they're just being polite. All right then, cheers.